Every single day for me is about growing and changing and thinking differently and what can we improve today. It's walking into rooms where I'm not the expert and building that credibility through performance and execution and that process thinking and thoughtfulness. It's sitting in the discomfort. It's being comfortable enough to say that I am leading, but I am also still growing and I don't have all of the answers. So for me, bravery it's pretty quiet these days, but it's very intentional.
Many people think innovation belongs to a select few with the right title, funding, or perfect idea. What if that's not true? Welcome to Innovate Where You Are. I'm Christy Venny. Each episode, I talk with people across industries, builders, educators, founders, and students who are creating change in real time. We explore the messy side of innovation, the risks, pivots, and lessons behind the work. Because innovation starts with curiosity, takes courage, and begins right where you are. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Abbi Failla, an executive leader known for bold career reinvention and innovative leadership in a fast-moving industry. In this conversation, we explore what it means to pivot mid-career, navigate leadership as a woman, and find the courage to build a new chapter before you feel fully ready. Abbi, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about your pivot. Some might not think of a pivot as innovation. However, it truly can be. Can you share a little bit about what it feels like to walk into a new industry at 40 and no longer be the expert?
Yeah, starting with just the hard-hitting questions, Christy. I feel like we're about to get vulnerable in this episode.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, I haven't had this much anxiety about an interview in a while. I'm like, man, you're not supposed to be vulnerable at work, but here we are just telling a story. So we're going to get after it a little bit. But yeah, so my pivot came a little bit later in life. I was 40 at the time, right? A couple of years ago. I'm not going to tell you how many, but a few years back. It was actually during COVID. So now everyone can do the math. But so COVID happened. I had been in the same career for a very long time. I'd been in and out of different industries, but really my entire career was focusing on human performance, travel incentives. At the time, I was planning large scale incentive trips for companies. So spent, 80, 90% of my life on a plane. Obviously, COVID shut that down and I needed to do something different. And everyone was talking about logistics. Everyone talked about supply chain. I had no idea what that meant. And as I was looking for my next step, it was one of those things that I had to consider. But it's scary, right? Like being 40, you're used to being the person with answers. You're used to having that authority. And all of the sudden, I was looking at a career path where I was going to come in and not have that authority anymore. You don't have that safety net of tenure, right? You're not confident in rooms anymore. And it is about innovation. It really is innovation. It's self-innovation. And I've learned so many lessons through that pivot that have really translated well into what I'm doing now. And looking back, I can see it as part of this transformational journey that I've been on the last couple of years. So transformation and innovation go hand in hand.
So I'm hearing you say that shift in your identity from being the person who had all the answers to the person who now is learning everything new.
Sure.
That had to shake you a little bit to your core to have to be a learner and starting fresh when you saw those around you that had answers and you're used to being that person.
Yeah.
How did that feel? And then what did you do to upskill yourself to learn those things you needed to become in that position of knowledge again?
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable shift going from knowing the answers and confirming, right? You are this knower and confirmer of things to the asker of questions and the builder. So it really is reminding yourself that I never doubted my ability, right? Like I never doubted my ability to do this job, but I doubted that other people would think that I had the ability to do it. And being able to really settle in and be comfortable in that uncomfortable of asking questions, remaining consistent, doing some research on your own to learn a new industry, and just being okay with not always being the expert, but starting those building blocks over on top of what you have already learned throughout your career was really important for me in the pivot.
But do you think it was different being a woman in your industry?
It's a tough question. Logistics in general is male dominated. We need more
Mm.
females in the industry, right? I think that the more diverse this industry can become, the more innovative we are. All sorts of backgrounds are needed here. I think it definitely weighed on me, right? It is like this silent, quiet thing of, am I being heard in the same way as my male counterparts and not really knowing. I think that women, whether we want to say it or not, are perceived on your personality and your skill set. And when you
Mm.
come into a new role and a new industry, you've lost that safety net of your knowledge. You are kind of starting your industry building block at the bottom. And when you already have that authority in a company and coming to start over, I do feel like it's harder for women. And for me, it was looking across the table at all of the really smart men I was surrounded with and them saying, like, you're a female coming into logistics for the first time. Are they going to think I'm credible? And being able to not always have an answer and be quiet in the room when you need to be quiet and listen is what I found worked really well for me, right? Like, take it in, speak when you have something important to say and when you're confident, or when you're asking a question, when you can be insightful and ask a question to continue the conversation. But sure, I think a career transition, especially for women in mid-career where you feel like I should have it all figured out by now, is tough.
That's some powerful self reflection that when you were new in that role, you were able to observe and say, I need to listen more. I'm going to listen. Normally, I'd be the person speaking, I'd have the ideas, I'd contribute. And a lot of times, I think there's pressure in those situations where you feel like you have to say something. I need to say something intelligent
Right.
and I'm here for a reason and they need to know it. I have to prove myself. But it's really smart that you took a step back and said, no, I'm going to learn, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to add value when I have something to say that is going to make an impact instead of just talking to fill the space. I think that that is a true leadership quality to know when you're going to be able to add that value. As you were going through that and establishing yourself and learning, was there anyone that was encouraging you? Did you feel there were people discouraging you? What was that like, that experience, that transition like?
Yeah, so I mean, internally when I joined Ease, there was a lot of encouragement. I mean, I joined this company really because of a conversation I had with the CEO. So I knew someone who was working here. I reached out to him and was like, "What do you think?" He got me in touch with the recruiter. The recruiter was like, "Oh, we don't really have anything that's the right fit for you right now, but there's something about you. I want you to meet our CEO." And I sat down with Peter, our CEO, who also said, like, I'm not like quite sure what I would do with your skill set, but there's something here. And him and I worked together to come up with this role for me that I stepped into at Ease. And he took a risk. And because he took a risk, he also became that person who was my cheerleader internally and allowed me to ask those questions and spent a lot of time just getting me up to speed. So I had a lot of internal support. We also had internal naysayers, right? People who are like, what is this girl coming in doing here, right? Coming into our company. But I had a lot of internal support. Obviously, I had external support from people who are just like, you can go and do anything. But there's also that opposite of people sometimes coming from a place of caring. I would think often coming from a place of caring, who would say, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Right? You were so good at what you did before. You loved your job. I did. I loved my job. You loved your job. Don't you just want to get back into something like that? And the answer was, like, I'm ready for something new. If I'm going to make a change, I'm going to make a change. And it's going to be a big one and something I feel good about. And the connection that I had with Peter when I met him for the first time and learned what he was building at Ease was so strong. And I was so bought into what he was building here that I just wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of something growing and doing really cool stuff and becoming a leader in this industry and have the impact of helping to grow a company. And that was more exciting to me than the comfort of what I had already known.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, there was both sides. There was that, like, those people who talk to, like, give you that little bit of self-doubt, like, oh, do I really want to do something different? Like, I could just go back into a big company and be an event planner or do something that I've always done. And this was such a challenge that I felt like if I'm ever going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah. Uh, so you didn't have a role that was a fit, but then
did it.
you sort of proposed and negotiated a role that was unique in the company. And of course, when things change in a company, like you said, there's going to be people who are like, wait, why are we doing this? And who
Yeah.
is this? And talent transcends industry. A lot of times, talent is talent. And when you have ideas and a skill set, you definitely can learn the tools of that industry and how it works. But can you talk a little bit about that role that you helped to create and grew as you've been with ease?
Yeah. So it probably didn't help the questioning from some internal people that it had a squishy title that was Director of Strategy and Innovation, which I
Yeah,
loved. Right?
it's
I'm like,
great.
yes, I'm gonna direct strategy and innovation. This is great.
Yeah.
But for a smaller company, at the time I joined Ease, we were about 70 employees. I was right around number 70 when I joined, and we're now over 200 employees. So it was a different company when I joined, but people are like, what the heck? Like, why do we need strategy and innovation? What a weird title. But it really came from me asking questions of Peter of like, where do you want this company to go? What are the gaps that you think you have right now to get you there? What are some of your aspirational goals that you want to achieve? And then me layering up my experience and talking about different skill sets that I had or different networks of people that I've developed over the year. Because one of the most powerful things you have is your network of people, right? And talking about how I thought I could fit in. And he really said, "All right, let's take a chance. I'll take a risk. What do you want to call it?" And I was like, "Let's call it strategy and innovation." And here we were, right? And I came in. Really, my first marching orders were to look at marketing, which at the time had been all outsourced. There wasn't anyone internally handling marketing for ease. So it was to look at marketing and restructure that. And it was to also look to our partners over at like Drive Ohio and ODOT and into that government relations piece that he hasn't had and understand where can we partner to start doing some really cool stuff.
Mm.
Luckily, my first job out of college, which was also someone that took a giant risk on me, was working in the governor's office here in Ohio. So I had this background of a little bit of understanding of how our government entities work and where to go to search for these grants and things. And that's really how I started. And I had a couple of big wins out of the gate that gave me that confidence I needed to say, like, all right, we made the right choice. I'm making an impact. Yeah, that was really it.
I think that's
You know, yeah, strategy and investment, and I'm now on my, 4th title here at Ease.
Well,
Yeah,
I would love to hear from the folks who are sort of a little dubious how they feel now after the company's grown so wonderfully over the last couple years that you've been
yeah,
there. Really, I mean, you can point to that and say strategy matters, and
strategy matters.
bringing your perspective from another industry too, I imagine adds value. You said the skills that you had from early in your career were very transferable and added value to
Yeah,
ease. Even though it wasn't the same industry, it still was a strength that you brought in that role. Skills aren't stuck in certain industries. Skills you take with you, the lessons you learn, the types of experiences you have, it's all creating who you are as a total package. And there's value in that.
there is, yeah. I mean, you might be starting over in an industry at the ground level, but you're not starting over in your career, I mean, for me, it really was, like, that learning of pattern recognition and human dynamics, whether you're analyzing people or systems or executive dynamics, like a go to market friction, it's all about systems thinking. And I really underestimated how valuable people strategy would be inside logistics.
Mhm.
My understanding, I'd spent years developing incentive programs to motivate people. So having a really good understanding of what motivates, what incentivizes people, that people strategy was a direct correlation. Logistics is about pressure, it's about deadlines, it's about margins, it's about changing markets, it's about being flexible while following a process.
Huh?
Um, and that foundation that I had in people strategy was so foundational to the success that I was able to bring to ease.
Sounds like a lot of psychology behind that, the incentive
Yeah,
structure and people skills and understanding humans and how we relate to each other and what motivates us.
I know, right? I mean, and I always think like I'm a great example of this. Like the technical can be learned, the industry can be learned, the human
Mm.
layer is so much harder. And that really became my advantage here when I stepped into a new role. It's just the understanding that strategy is portable and bringing it to your new role is easy to do because those are the things I am an expert in. So that was the easy part for me.
Well, you do a great job representing the industry now because you definitely got me interested. I know when we've gotten to collaborate in the past, you totally sold me on all of the opportunity within logistics and you make it look easy. I know it's not easy. I know there's a lot of work that goes into
Yeah.
it, but you just handle it so seamlessly. Can you share a little bit about what innovation or innovative leadership even looks like inside the field of logistics?
Yeah. I mean, innovation isn't always loud and flashy. So in logistics, the team here always knows I say we innovate in big ways and in small ways. And sometimes, and most times, the small ways are often more important. Innovation here at its core is just thinking differently. Anything you can think differently about is innovation. And it is simple. Ease was founded on an innovative thought that we could build something better. And that was, we're going to respond in 2 minutes or less. That's seems so easy and it seems so intuitive that of course we would want to get back to our customers in 2 minutes, but people don't do it. And just by putting it out there, that was innovative and it developed the core of who Ease is, which is just think differently, just do the right thing. So for us, it's those small things. It is following the processes. It is being vulnerable enough and risky enough to try something different and think about it differently while still adhering to the processes that make you successful and deliver the customer service that our customers want. It is sometimes the big things of right now we're developing a proprietary AI agent here at Ease. Everyone's into AI. We're doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
We're using some off-the-shelf tools that are really amazing, and we're also building a proprietary agent that is internal facing right now with a little bit of external. It will be both internal and external facing here in the future. I mean, innovation is being strong enough to push forward through this like AI transition that we're all doing when there is pushback in the operation and people are uncomfortable with it. You have to keep going. For us, it's been big things like one of my first wins here at Ease was securing a grant from Drive Ohio and ODOT to test autonomous platooning vehicles here in Ohio. We were the first ones to do it in Ohio.
So cool.
We were the host fleet partner. We now just got awarded our third deployment of different types of technology on autonomous trucks. Now, I will say autonomous is not synonymous with driverless, is what I wanted to say. A lot of people hear autonomous and they think driverless, and that is scary. We've been doing some platooning truck technology, just looking differently at the industry. How can that make our roadways safer? How can it take some of the burden off of our drivers? All of those sorts of things. And, I'm really proud that led us to winning a spot on Fortune's Most Innovative Companies list, which was a really cool moment for me. And we were named the #1 provider or company in transportation innovation. And being able to beat out or become #1 above major airlines, household transportation
Mm.
means basically anyone else that you would know on that list. And we were named #1 for the work that we're doing in innovation. And sometimes it is those big splashy things that give you the confidence,
Mhm.
but it's not always that, right? It's the small things. It's disciplined execution and the courage to change is really what it is.
I love what you just said, the courage to change, because whether it's a big thing or a small thing, change is hard for a
So
lot of people. And that's again, across industries, any type of role you're in, whether it's your personal life or your professional life, change can be really hard. We've got a lot going on in our world.
and scary.
Yeah, it can be scary and change management. I know you mentioned systems and how you're a systems thinker and how that's so important. How do you go about managing change? You mentioned your latest AI agent initiative that you're working on. And sometimes people are just not excited about change. They don't necessarily want to do things differently, they think things are fine. How do you approach that when you work with your teams at ease?
Small chunks.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, change is hard. It's making sure that everyone understands we know we're going to see this little dip before we see that upward momentum that we want to see, because we're all learning together. I mean, if anyone tells you they're an AI expert, they are lying. There is no one who knows everything about this. It's changing and growing too fast, and we're all learning together. So for us, it has been those small chunks. It's not everything at once. It is, let me take this one process that feels repetitive and administrative and it takes time. Like, tell me the thing that you hate doing the most. Is it that email that we've made people hand key the exact same thing for every single customer, for every single load that's going out the door? Do we actually need a human to do that? Or can we have AI do that and do it well and do it quicker than a human actually could type? And so it's taking those things like that and then showing people, here's how it works, and letting them build confidence that the system is going to do it right. Because like people always say, I do it myself because I can do it better. It's the same thing with tech. You don't trust it because, at least for me, I am not going to pretend to understand how it works behind the scenes. I don't know. I can plug something into ChatGPT and it tells me all the answers, and I don't know how it works, but I love it. You have to get used to that and you have to trust the technology. So we've been doing these small chunks and we've been doing it in the most impactful places we possibly can for our team. It's really important for us to make sure our team knows we are not on a course to eliminate roles. We are on a course to allow every individual here to do more without burning you out. That is our ultimate goal, right? We are not adding, it's going to continue to be overwhelming. For a minute, it will be, right? Like, it will be overwhelming. It's going to feel clunky and heavier. And then as soon as you get used to it, it's going to be so much easier and faster. And now you can do more. We can service our customers better. We can handle more. We are smarter. We have more information at our fingertips. You're spending less time on just the administrative stuff and more time on the engagements that matter and bringing real value forward and getting our team to the point where they understand we are not looking to eliminate roles. We are looking to make you smarter, stronger, faster, and deliver a better customer experience. And every step of the way, being able to prove that has just been invaluable for us.
I can only imagine the relief that people feel when they know, okay, my job's safe. They're helping me to do it better and do the parts of the job that are really important by, automating the things that don't need me, my personal touch as much. I can imagine your team feels good about that. But how does it work to get input from the people that are using these tools and all the way up to the top? The philosophy from you sounds like there's really embracing the tools and experimentation. Is there any kind of feedback loop, or what does it look like across the
Yeah.
organization?
I mean, it is everyone involved. So Peter, our CEO, is intimately involved in the build. I mean, no one understands our workflows better than him. He was an account manager. He still loves getting into the day-to-day and booking freight. Like, he loves nothing more than to just be on the floor with everybody all day long, like in it. So he knows the workflows, and he is really, let's call him like the conductor of where we're going and what we're doing. And then we have an amazing vice president of technology here who is really leading our charge internally, and has a brilliant mind for looking at our processes and workflows and taking feedback from the team. She does a phenomenal job of meeting with our operations leaders, who are really our customer service, dealing with our customers every single day to figure out, is this helpful? Is this what you need to see? We're not creating things in a vacuum of technology and then rolling it out and say, use this. We're creating it in a partnership. We have some great external technology partners who are helping us build as well. And they interact regularly with our operations teams and our end users in the beta test, in the building, to say, is this what you need? Are you missing information? Really to get their feedback. So we do live time feedback. Our AI agent, also, her name's Amy. We have named her Amy.
Lovely.
Yeah, she's integrated. She's integrated in our teams here, and you can ask her questions. But if you had feedback, you can literally just start a sentence with feedback and then give Amy your feedback.
Oh,
Yeah, and that goes directly to our developers and our technology team, who take all of that and synthesize the feedback and then continuously improve the system. So our feedback loop, it was really important for us to have multiple channels. So you can do it in person. You can do it through our beta testing. You can do it through Amy herself. We have feedback forms everywhere. If anyone says they don't know how to give feedback, please don't say that to me because there's a million ways to do it, and they're all out there.
Yep.
But it really is making sure that we're testing before we build out too far so that when something is deployed, it's a product that everyone's bought into, and they know it's coming. And our operational leaders here can then champion it to their teams to increase that adoption rate quicker.
That sounds like such an effective feedback system that the design process, when you're rolling things out and you're constantly having the opportunity and receiving feedback from the users, that closes a lot of those gaps that occur when people are doing something like, oh gosh, another new tool. Well, this is no good and no one listens to me. They can't
Yeah.
say that. You have it
Listen,
built in.
of course, yes, that still happens, right?
Well, always, right?
I'm sure that happens everywhere. Or people just get so frustrated that they don't give feedback, right? They just,
Hmm.
something's wrong. Like something is going to be wrong. Like,
Yeah.
let's just put it out there.
Well,
We're not
right.
going to build and it's going to be perfect. And, it is that like the first time something's wrong, it's never going to be right. So I'm just going to give up on it now.
Mm.
So it's also like finding those people who have those insights, but they're just like, oh, it's never going to change. It doesn't work. I've already
Right.
forgotten about it. And
Yeah.
pulling that out and being like, well, why? Tell me why. And Erica does a really great job of, she always says, tell me more. Right. And like, tell me exactly what you mean. And just really pulling it out of people. So the feedback loops are there. Is it perfect? No, never.
Right.
But it is working for us really, really well.
That is so exciting to hear that you've put these systems into place. And when I think of ease, I think of innovation. I remember one of your facilities says it right on there that
Yeah.
it is like a place to innovate. And it feels that way when you are in the space. It feels intentional. Like there's from the time that Peter hired you to do innovation and strategy all the way through the time you've been there and grown the company. We started off talking about how you were new to this industry and came in with almost, with very little knowledge,
Zero.
tons of
Let's be
experience
honest,
in it.
Christy, zero
Yeah.
knowledge about
I was
logistics.
trying to be nice.
Yeah, you don't have to be nice. I mean, other than Amazon shows up at my door, I had zero knowledge of logistics.
Yes. Well, and it touches all of our lives, but
It
it's
does.
not something many of us think about just because, we just assume it's going to be there. And COVID taught us things do happen and disrupt these
Yeah.
wonderful, intricate, delicate systems that make our whole society function. That it empowers all of our businesses and all of our companies to be able to function when things show up on time and get where they're supposed to be. And how it's just this no one probably thinks about the work that's done unless you're in the industry. We might take that for granted, unfortunately, but I think, the time I've spent with you, I've learned, gosh, I remember one time you said, well, you know how that toilet paper gets on the shelf, right? Like there's a process,
A
when
long process. Yeah.
yes, and how people doing this work, it's such an important field. But you make, like I said earlier, you make it sound easy because you got to a point where you've become an expert, even though you started out like shifting mid-career. I'm curious, when did you feel like you were there? Like were in your groove, you knew enough where you weren't the new person in the room or still wondering like, wait, what does that mean? What that guy just say? When did you get there? Was there a moment you knew?
I mean, I don't know if I would even say that I'm there yet, Christy. I mean, I think that of me being comfortable, let's say that, I don't know that I will ever reach a moment of like, I am there, right? There's so much to learn when it comes to the supply chain, and it is constantly changing. That is the only constant.
Mm.
It is our job. I think of that like duck analogy where it's like the duck's very smooth but paddling really crazy, like that is
Yeah.
logistics, right? If shelves are stocked and your stuff is arriving on time and we don't shut down line, it doesn't matter all of the stuff that happens behind the scenes because our customers have this seamless experience, and it's our job to handle everything that's happening below the surface. And you asked about when I'll call it when I started feeling comfortable, and it was
Mm.
One, I think not just receiving the grants that I talked about earlier, but winning awards. Like externally, I felt like I was making a difference and like, all right, I belong. I found an industry I belong in when that external recognition from Fortune or Smart Business or, the other amazing accolades that this company has received, when those started coming directly tied to the work that I had been involved with, that's confirming. And that makes me feel like, all right, I know what I'm talking about. But even more important than that is, I think, the internal confirmation where my colleagues started coming to me with questions and looking to me for advice or looking to me for confirmation, or if they didn't know where else to go, or just coming in and having a conversation about life, right? Trusting me enough with those personal conversations. That's when I felt like I was really a part of the company. When the internal team sees you as a trusted resource, that makes all of the difference. And that it also allows me the grace to be able to admit that I don't know everything and I am also still growing, is what it's all about. And having a team around me where it's okay to still ask questions, even when people are coming to me, tells me that I'm in the right spot. And I think that is logistics, but more importantly, like it is ease. It is what every employee here has made this company, just to be a catalyst for growth and change and innovation and thinking differently. And every opinion matters and will be heard. Now, I've always said, like, we can't possibly do everything, but we will listen to everything. And everyone feels comfortable, or at least I hope everyone feels comfortable enough to bring that forward. And helping to build a culture that embraces that was just a huge win for me. And within that first year, I really started settling and feeling like, all right, I belong here. I know enough in logistics to belong and answer questions. It wasn't immediate. It was a lot of hard
Well, I imagine it sounds like it was very hard
work.
work that you took on somewhat joyfully. And I think hearing you speak about the ability to be vulnerable and not know the answer
Yeah.
probably builds trust with the people you work with, because they see you saying, I don't know, but also quickly trying to figure out and get up to speed as fast as you can. But still, you're growing, you're modeling that growth mindset and embracing that discomfort. You're riding the wave and you're like, I'm just figuring this out, but I can do this and you can do it too. I think
Yeah.
that says a lot in a culture, in an organization. When people see that from those in leadership, it's reassuring and it helps others to grow around you. Which is just being a strong leader, the authenticity that you probably radiate, where you're willing to listen and you're willing to not know and you're willing to figure out and bring forward ideas that are truly creative and
Yeah.
innovative. I think that says so much about you as a leader. And it also is modeling to others on how the organization wants to interact and move forward together. It's very powerful. If someone is listening to this and they too are thinking, gosh, I would love a change. I'd love to grow. I want to do something like this. I'm feeling brave. What do you think is something that they could do, some small step they could take to move forward and maybe pivot like you did?
Yeah. I mean, well, first, say it out loud. Sounds so simple, right? Innovation's in the small things. So just say it, put it out there. It sounds small, but it will give you permission to be like, okay, I want to explore what's out there. You don't have to set your target on anything. So my first thing, just admit it out loud that you want to look at something different. And then my second piece of advice would be just have a conversation, just one, right? A conversation to learn about an industry you're curious about, not interviewing for a job. They might not even have anything open. One conversation was pivotal in changing my career, and at the time wasn't attached to a job. And that's how things start, right? And you find something that you just believe in. Change is scary. If your gut is telling you something about this feels right, then go and do it. Those conversations, right? Clarity reduces fear. Having that conversation could either put you on the path of like, well, this isn't the right industry, or it could provide you that clarity of, yeah, I was right. I'm still really interested in this. Let's dig in a little bit deeper. So say it out loud in one conversation.
That is fantastic. And I like the clarity reduces fear. I would add to that. Sometimes I think people are fearful, but then once you have the clarity, then you're sort of anxious about, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? And my other favorite saying is action is the antidote to anxiety.
Yeah.
So you have to move with it. You can sit on an idea, but also like take action. Like you said, have that conversation. It could be someone you trust. It could be a small step, but it's a step. Look
Yeah.
where you want to go in the right direction, and you'll
Right.
be moving in that direction slowly as opposed to wherever else you were going, which might have
Right.
been not really
Nowhere.
anywhere.
Been nowhere. Right.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of
And like
bravery.
take the pressure off of feeling like you're going to find a new job.
Mm,
Don't interview for jobs or do interview for jobs that you don't want just to go and learn.
and practice.
Listen, I am also in HR, and so I would hate for someone to come in just to interview for something, but I am open to all conversations when people want to learn about the industry.
Mm,
Right? Like take that pressure off of, all right, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to start looking for a new job or putting myself out there. It doesn't have to be that serious at the beginning.
that's great advice. Now you were able to pivot into a different industry. Have you found, as you've done hiring at ease, have you ever found talent that came from other industries, or is that
No,
rare?
no, it is not rare in
Really?
logistics. No, it's not. I'll tell you what, I say I love people who have any sort, and it's probably because it's my background, Christy, but like any sort of hospitality background. If you have
Oh,
worked in a hotelier or a restaurant or, an industry that thrives on customer service, you can excel in logistics. If you are organized and you are customer service driven, you can be successful here. We can teach you the rest, right? And I think our leadership team here at E, well, a lot of our leaders here at Ease can attest to that. Right? Like Peter went to school for criminology, had a criminology background, and ended up in logistics, not knowing anything about it.
wow.
I didn't have a logistics background. One of our vice presidents who started really early played Major League Soccer before this.
Oh my God.
One of our, but like that structure of being an athlete translates really well into logistics. We had someone else, one of our VPs, who came from the restaurant industry and ran and managed restaurants, and having that personal interaction and the ability to talk to anyone and the ability to understand people and
Uh,
form camaraderie translated so beautifully into logistics. So it really is all backgrounds. Of course, we love people with logistics backgrounds that have experience, but it's a testament to you can pivot from multiple things into a new career. And the stability that logistics gives you, it's not going anywhere. We
uh-huh.
will always need stuff, it will always have to move. The industry gives everyone that stability to feel really comfortable and grow a career here. And it also builds on what people have learned before. So, no, I am not an anomaly in this industry by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, you're definitely a success story in my eyes. All the things that you've been doing at ease have just been so fantastic. Let's roll into a couple rapid fire questions just for fun. Have you had any leadership lessons that you learned late in your career?
Like, yeah,
Late.
one of the biggest lessons I have learned more recently is that alignment beats intelligence every single time. You can hire all of the smart people in the world, and if someone isn't on the same page and it causes friction in those leadership rooms, it's not good. So alignment being the first priority, and then people can learn the rest. Like we can teach logistics, we can't teach learning how to play on a team. We can't teach being able to compromise. We can't teach
Mhm.
not always being right and being okay with it. Not everyone can be the smartest person in the room. And like you have to have the right mix of people. So for me, it really, one of the most important lessons was the smartest people don't equal success. People who understand alignment and end goal will always be more successful.
Fantastic. Not what I expected you to say, and I love
What
that.
did you expect me
I
to say?
love that. I don't know, there's so many things that people think about leadership, and
Yeah,
I agree, alignment is so important, and I love how you explained it, how it can just kill momentum. So that
kills.
to me really resonates, and I think a lot of our listeners will that'll sink in with them as well as being very impactful. Can you think of one book, a person, or an event that changed how you think?
Yeah, I've had some phenomenal mentors throughout my career that each of them in different ways completely changed how I think. But one of my mentors recommended for me a book that I actually gave out to our leadership team here, probably within my first like 2 months of joining Ease, which is Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. And it's a big book if you look at it, but it's a bunch of short stories, if you haven't read it, about successful people, not just in business. There's business leaders in there, but there's athletes, there's coaches, there's operators, there's founders, there's investors, all sorts of different walks of life. And it's short stories about what makes them successful. And it really resonated with me. And I gave it to the team to say, like, one, you can read a short story, which is like between 1 and 5 pages, one a day, and just take something from it. But it really shifted how I was thinking about high performance, right? It's not tactics. Like everyone didn't have the same tactics that made them successful, but everyone had similar patterns. So it's like structured thinking, discipline habits, and extreme ownership of what they were doing and not being scared to admit that they failed and not trying to point the finger at someone else. It's like the buck stops here. Like I have extreme ownership over my losses and over my wins. And more often than not, like the wins are a team win. It's also not taking wins as one person. So I loved that book. I could go on and on about like people who have had influences or events that changed how I think. But that book for me in relation to leadership and process design and the importance of habits and ownership across success stories really resonates. If you haven't read it, it's a cool book.
I haven't. It's going on my list, and I'll add it in the show notes too so that listeners can find it easily. I want to follow up with, I know this is rapid fire, so I'm breaking
Okay.
the
Oh,
rules,
sorry. I
but
should answer
sometimes
quicker.
no, sometimes I break the rules too because good things come up. And you had mentioned one of the things from the book about failure and owning failure. And I think most of the innovative people that I know and respect are very much so about embracing failure because if you're trying really hard and trying new things, you're going to fail.
Yes.
Can you think about any examples, anything that you've ever done where you're like, yeah, that didn't land, or that's something that goes in the failure bucket and we learned from it, but it just didn't go well. I think a
Sure.
lot of times it's hard sometimes to revisit those things, but it's helpful that people know people that are winning in innovation are also failing regularly.
Yeah. Of course, I have those failure moments. I feel like I have at least one a day. I mean, right? There's something every day where I'm like, "Oh, that didn't land how I thought it was going to, but gave it a try." But I look at those and we all should look at those as like if you're not failing, you're not growing, you're not learning. If everything you put out there wins, that tells me you're not taking big enough risks.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've had tons of failures. I mean, we won't go too in depth, but we've had ideas here that we've partnered with other companies or we've thought something was going to really take off. And we had these really cool, innovative ideas and we put time and money and resources into it. And then when it gets into production, I'm like, this isn't working how we thought it would, or the adoption isn't here, or there's already something better that has come to market and we were too.
Mhm.
And that's going to happen. It is how you react afterwards that makes the difference, right?
Mm.
It is being able to understand why it failed and then grow from it and say like, all right, well, here's something I'm going to pivot and do differently, or just understanding when it's time to walk away. Like this idea just kind of sucked. Like it was there, we tried it, it's not going to work for us. Like let's pivot to something completely different. And we have to do that, right? And it's interesting in innovation. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, Christy, but it's interesting in innovation because at ease, like we are always the first to raise our hands, and Peter gives us the autonomy to do that. If someone says like, I want to try X, we will always say like, we will try that with you. Like sign us up, we'll do it. And everyone wants to talk about innovation and doing things differently, but what we have realized is very few companies are willing to take that risk that it could fail. And they want to prove something out before they're willing to put their names on it. And we have the ability here to say we can try something and we can be innovative and yeah, sign me up for that project without being held to if this fails, someone's going to get in trouble or someone's going to lose a job, right? And it's like if it fails, you're going to grow and learn from it, but don't let that be a lost lesson and move on. And we will always be the first to the table to do things and try things differently.
I also
Yeah.
heard that you have a culture of innovation that you've established so that there's safety, that security that people know we want to innovate. And we also know the other part, there's a and to that. You want to innovate and you know when it's time to pull something or to stop something or pivot or adjust and adapt. It's great to be innovative.
In technology, you call it tech debt, and it's debt in different ways. But you can't keep pouring into something that you've realized isn't going to work, and you have to know when to say, like, all right, this is good, right? Like, we said we were going to spend X amount of time, and now we're done. Or we said we were going to invest X amount of money, and now we're done, right? Here's what we've learned from that. We operate here in like a sprint mentality. So it is these short sprints. Like, let's test it out for a short sprint and see how it works. And then we know at the end of that, we're either going to be like, all right, next, or this didn't work and we're done with this one. Let's go on to the next idea. There's so many ideas. You can continuously start sprints on things and something will stick. But if you end up in a spin of forcing something to be innovative and to create change and to work, you will never be able to move on to the next thing. And you could miss your best idea because you're wasting your time on something that you knew failed months ago.
Wow. Being really honest with yourself, but I also liked your time boxing strategy. You have constraints that you're setting from the get-go. Like, we're going to give this a shot for this long or for this amount of investment.
Yeah.
That also allows you to say we are trying things, but within reason. And we know when we're going to take the temperature and see if this is worth continuing or doing something else.
Yeah,
So
it will never negatively impact our customers or the foundation of our business, right? It will never do that. So we have to be quick. We have to be smart. We have to be quick, and we have to make decisions quickly.
That's fantastic. Well, last question. Thinking about all of these innovative things that you've done and the changes you've made in your career, how you pivoted, and you gave a lot of examples. There was a lot of bravery involved. You were courageous. What does that mean to you now, looking back at the things you've done and ahead at where you're going?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it brave, but I could see that. I think for me, as I've progressed in my career and I'm older, I think bravery isn't something that's super loud for me anymore. Like, it's the things that we choose. Like, for me, it's choosing growth over comfort repeatedly. So never settling in. Like, there hasn't been a moment at ease where I felt settled and like, all right, I'm going to come in every day and this is exactly what I'm going to do and everything is going to go smoothly, right? Every single day for me is about growing and changing and thinking differently. And what can we improve today? It's walking into rooms where I'm not the expert and building that credibility through performance and execution and that process thinking and thoughtfulness. It's sitting in the discomfort when you're uncomfortable. It's being comfortable enough to say that I am leading, but I am also still growing and I don't have all of the answers. So for me, bravery it's pretty quiet these days, but it's very intentional. It's not this outward. I feel like when you're young, like, you're brave and you take big risks and like, I'm going to go. Listen, I was an adrenaline junkie at one point in my life, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to do all these like crazy things, and for me, this is brave. But for me now, it is pretty quiet, and it is an internal decision that I make every day when I show up in this office.
Well, Abbi Failla, you are definitely an inspiration to me. And when you said choosing growth over comfort, I feel like I need to put that on a Post-it on my computer because it's every day making that choice. Little ways, big ways, just like you said, innovation is big and small. Choosing growth over comfort is an amazing way of framing our conversation today. I thank you so much for your time. This has been
Thank you, Christy.
so
It's been
insightful.
fun.
Thank you, Abbi.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Innovate Where You Are. Check the show notes for links and resources from today's conversation. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/Christy Venny. Until next time.